Okay, so let's bring our palms together in veneration of our Master, our guide, the greatest teacher humanity has ever seen, as he has taught us to find peace within, freedom within, and happiness within ourselves. He who taught us to become independent and to find a bliss that is eternal, so that we can stand strong and content, having found peace within ourselves. As we bring our palms together in veneration of His holy name, let us also remind ourselves that this is not a mere mark of respect, but rather it is a pledge of allegiance that we take to the noble path, the path that we shall all walk to get to the ultimate destination, that is the Buddha, the path being the Dhamma, and our practice of walking on that path being the Sangha. That is the noble triple gem, and it is in that noble triple gem we shall now take refuge in. Let us then observe the precepts and commence with today's proceedings. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. That last precept that you observed, it is something incredibly difficult to do. It's akin to making a promise to yourself not to itch yourself when you feel the itch, when you feel that if there's a rash on your body and it's very itchy, it's like taking an oath not to scratch yourself. People are not inherently bad. So, if it's so simple to observe this precept, why doesn't everyone treat each other like that? With compassion and loving kindness? You don't have to go very far, just bring the matter home and you will realize it's the same situation. You may be thinking right now, yes, Swaminathan, I understand, countries are at war with each other. But what about the domestic wars as well? Can you hand on heart say that you always act compassionately and with loving kindness towards the people that you live with at home? Don't respond. It's okay. I don't want you to embarrass yourself. The truth is you can't. You know well and truly that there are times where you're irritated. Yes? When you're annoyed. And in those moments you are not happy. Then metta sahagatena goes out the window. What metta? It could be because you've had a bad day at work. It could be because you've just had a visit from your in-laws. I see a few eyebrows going up like that. Easy for you to say, Swaminathan, you don't have any in-laws. I know. You never wanted in-laws, you just wanted the law. But it comes as a package. So you can't just wash your hands off them and say, no, I just wanted the daughter, or I just wanted the son, I don't want the in-laws. You can't say that, it comes as a package. It's like with anything in this world, it always comes with strings attached. We touched on this last week, didn't we? So as much as you might try and you might promise yourself every Sunday morning, Sabba Satya, so this time, this next week, I swear upon myself and my mother, my father, my dead grandmother, you swear on anything and everything you can think of. I swear on everything there is, I will conduct myself with utmost compassion and loving kindness towards everyone. And then you go home. And then you find that the dishes haven't been washed. And then you find your kid coming and bothering you and nagging you and to help them do their homework. And you are up to here in the work that you have brought home, work from home. So your kid comes and asks you for help, and then you look around, you ask the kid, child, do you only have a mother? Don't you have a father? And then you say, well, just go and ask your father for help. No, Tati said he's busy. What busy? So you get off your seat and you go and have a look in the living room. He's watching the telly with his feet up on the teapot. So you think he's being unfair. And you have all this work to do, how come he cannot do his part to look after the kids? So you think it's the right time to raise your voice or to speak up against this unfairness, injustice. So you say, can't you look after this child for a moment? I've got work to do. To which he responds, what do you mean work to do? I've just had a whole days of work to do. I've only just got back home and I'm just trying to get some fresh air, just trying to relax myself. I only just got home. You have no idea how hard it is at work. This is all the time I get for myself. All the other time I'm doing for you all. Can't I just relax myself, just watch a little bit of TV? That's all I'm asking for. Now what's going to happen to the compassion and the loving kindness and metta sahagatena cetasang viharana? It's easier said than done. It's easier said than done, ladies and gentlemen, because you have desires of your own. That's why. There's always a little voice in the back of your mind going, I want this, I want that, I don't want this, I don't want that. And you tell your kids off for being like that. You tell your kids off for being like that. All that happens is when you grow up and become adults is you learn to not vocalize that voice. That's all. The voice is still there at the back of your head going, I want this, I want that, I don't want this, I don't want that, I want him, I want her. As you walk past a nice boutique shop, some sort, maybe jewelry store or some other, maybe a car showroom for the gents or whatever it is, isn't there a voice at the back of your head going, I want this, I want that, can I have this, can I have that? You just have learned as an adult that apparently that's what maturity is. You have learned to mute that voice. So you don't always vocalize that, but it's still there. Whereas a kid, it doesn't know how to not speak its mind out. So it does. And then you find that annoying. So what is maturity then? What does it mean to grow up? Yes, you look in the mirror, you ask the people who've known you since your childhood, they will say, you have grown up. If you just take your family photo album and have a look in there, you might hardly recognize the youthful days when you were 20, 15, 14. Today you might not even recognize that person. So in that sense, you have grown up. Yes, we have all grown up. But what about internally? What about our thought processes? Yes, today you may know geometry, but when you were a kid, you didn't. Today you know how to solve complex equations. Yes, when you were a kid, you didn't. Today you know how to cook, you know how to maintain a bank account, you know how to pay your bills, you know how to drive a car, you know how to build a car. and even to make small repairs at home. You don't always have to take it to the garage. See? You've grown up. But have we really? You still want a car. Your kid wants a car. You call it a toy car. You want a car. You call it a real car. In what way have you grown up in relation, in comparison, in contrast to your kid? You still want. And if you're willing to accept, ladies and gentlemen, that whatever it is your heart desires is the cause of your suffering, then can you tell me really that you suffer any less than you did when you were a child? I admit this. Today you have the means to relieve yourself of those vexations that you experience. Somehow it seems like that's all we've done growing up. We learn to find vents for our vexations. When we were kids, we would just shout, scream at the top of our voices, protest, demand. That's what we would do, and make life a living hell for our parents. That's what we would do. Not as a child, Swaminas, I still do that sometimes, once in a while. I hear some of you mumble. You know, even to this day, maybe you're, 30s, 40s now, and your elderly parents are maybe in their 60s, 70s, and, there's still something that you see, that you like, and you want to have, but you can't afford it. Maybe the next thing you know, you're at the end of the phone. You're speaking to your mom. Mom, you have that pension, right? Your parents are, your children are probably, they talk to you once in a while and say, Mom, can I just borrow some money, please? Dad, can you give me a loan? And those loans are practically write-offs. How many debts remain unpaid? So many that you have lost count. So what is it to grow up then? We have all been given this opportunity to grow up. We surround ourselves with our friends, teachers, right? We have teachers. Teachers. People who are supposed to know things that we don't. People who are supposed to guide us and show us the path when we don't. We have elders, we have adults, we have a younger brother, or an elder brother, an elder sister who's supposed to teach you how to manage yourself, manage your life. You have uncles and aunts, and cousins and nephews and nieces, grandparents. All of these people are supposed to mold you into someone better than you were when you were a kid. But how much better are we actually now that we have all grown up? Yes, we have learned some good manners. We are courteous. We are respectful towards others. Yes, I understand that. But I mean individually, do you feel grown up within yourself is the question I'm asking you. That's the question I'm posing to you today. Within yourself, I don't mean the personality traits that you exhibit to the people around you. Like for instance, when you were a kid, just one toilet reference this week, okay? We had plenty last week. As an adult, if you wanted to pass wind as a kid, you wouldn't care who was around you. But now, you'd hold it in, maybe go somewhere private where there's no one else around, do your thing, and then come back out and say, sorry, I had to go for a quick call. If you burp, you'll excuse yourself. When you yawn, you hold your hand in front of your mouth. These are good manners. These things we have learned, yes. We have learned how to make a living. We have learned how to feed ourselves. We have learned how to do a job. We have learned all these things, but I'm actually talking about that voice at the back of your head going, I want this, I want that. I don't want this, I don't want that. That voice, how much of that have you actually managed to tame? Is it that you have managed to tame it, or is it that you have now found legitimate ways and means in which to fulfill those demands and those desires? Is that what we have done growing up? Those days you had to go and beg at your mother's feet. You had to go behind your father, and he would make various demands. You have to get this much for your exams, that much for your term tests, remember? And then you had to meet those criteria before you were allowed to have anything. But now, you were fed up of that. I said, you thought to yourself, I can't be going around these people asking for everything I want. What if just I had the freedom to get what I want? It was never, what if I had the freedom to not want? That's not what you wanted. That thought never occurred in your mind. What if I could have the freedom to not want? To be free of want, to be free of desire? That thought never occurred. What occurred to your mind was, what if I had the freedom to get what I want when I want it? That's the thought that ran in all of our minds. So how can you say that you are free? What qualifies each and every one of you, ladies and gentlemen, to consider yourselves adults in that sense? These arahants, you may have heard them referred to as Thera. In English we call them Theros, right? But Thera is actually, in today's day and age, it's a common term. It's a way that it's a way of salutation that you would use for a monk. But back in the day, Thera was not that. In fact, there's a really nice translation of the word Thera. In certain scriptures you'll find it. It's called elder. That's why Theravada is the philosophy of the elders. Elder in what sense? That's what we need to think about. How are they elders? Elders in what sense? Is it in the sense that they lived many years ago? And had they been still alive today, they'd be very old in relation to us. As old as dinosaurs, one might think. Is it elders in that sense? Or is it elders in a different kind of sense? In a different sense altogether. See, have you grown up in that sense? This is a time for self-reflection. Have we grown up in that sense? In the sense that an arahant can be called an elder. In the sense that when they were not an elder, they had that nagging voice in the back of their minds going what? I want this, I want that, I don't want this, and I don't want that. And then they had to learn they learned the Dhamma. They came across the Dhamma. And the Dhamma did something miraculous. Until they discovered the Dhamma, they were doing just what you and I were doing. Me as well, before I discovered the Dhamma. They were doing just what you were doing. And that is, whenever their minds desired something, wanted something, yearned for something, they went on the lookout for a way to achieve that. Because there were vexations. When the mind desires something, ladies and gentlemen, I think I mentioned this 1 or 2 weeks ago, when the mind desires something, it will not stop at anything until it achieves it. And guess what? If it has to make you go insane, it's willing to do that as well. It's like a pressure cooker. If you cover it all up and seal it, and the pressure starts building inside, it doesn't matter how strong the material is that you have built it with, there will come a point where it will have to give in, and the whole thing will explode. There's only so much pressure even the pressure cooker can bear. If you keep on increasing the amount of energy inside, then at some point, it's just going to explode and give way. In the same manner, your minds are really containments of energy. That's what they are. They're containments of energy. They're packets of energy, if you like. And that energy You learn how to wield that energy, how to maneuver that energy. That's what the Dhamma helps you do. When you learn about the mind, you learn how to manipulate that energy. But until you learn how to do that, what you have with you is a very dangerous weapon. I'm sure somewhere in some part of the world, there's a switch. That switch would probably be, maybe it's colored red, as the stories always say, it's a switch. And it says, press this and a nuclear warhead will be fired. You know who they have given command and control of that switch to? An untamed mind. Can you believe that? They have given command and control of that switch to an untamed mind. A mind that experiences desire, a mind that experiences aversion, and a mind that experiences delusion. Raga, Desha and Moha, all three of them. Can you believe that? And you press that button and a nuclear warhead is fired. Which has not only the capacity to destroy wherever it lands, but also to kickstart a nuclear war. Because remember, it's never one way. As soon as you start, you press that button, it's not just firing a weapon. What you have just kicked off is war. And that's at the fingertip of a mind that has not been tamed yet, not been tamed with the Dhamma. Again, if you bring it back home on a more domestic scale, they put you in the driver's seat of a car. When you drive a car, you're taking not only your life into your own hands, but also the lives of your passengers. Can we stop there? No. What about all the others on the road? Have you not seen road rage? At least seen it? Road rage and road race, both. Sometimes, your heart almost skips a beat as you drive up on the roads and people try to get ahead of you, or they try to compete. You see that it's not an uncommon sight. When one bus driver wants to overtake the other just so that he can collect the passengers from the next bus stop. As if the next passenger he's going to pick up is going to give him the lottery ticket. That's going to win the jackpot. Look at how much is at stake. Count the number of seats in the bus. Some of those buses, they can hold up to 50, 60, 70 passengers. Just imagine if one of those buses collided with another one of those buses, 140 lives. It's not cats and dogs we're talking about. We're talking about human lives. Lives just like yours. Lives which have been blessed with every opportunity to free itself from suffering. But then, hey, those lives are now in the hands of someone who is completely overwhelmed with raga, dvesha and moha. How can you convince yourself to actually get into one of those things? It's a question that's worth pondering. Maybe don't think too much about these things. I'll take all that. Shall we start again? Right, let's precept again then. Because if you start thinking about these things, you are never going to be able to get into a bus, or a three-wheeler, or any other vehicle for that matter. Because you're going to stand by the door and you're going to think to yourself, this man, full of raga, desha, moha. How can anyone in their sane mind expect to get into that bus and get down scathe-free? So, in what way have we, the thing is this, as soon as you turn 18, by age you're qualified to drive, right? That's all it takes. Just think about that for a second. What's the legal age to get a driver's license? Is it 18 or 16 now? 18. In some countries, I think it's low, 16. So all you have to do, 16. Okay. So 16, 18, it's the same thing. Either way, my point is proven, right? All you have to do is just live for 16 years, or 17 years, or 18 years. That's all you have to do. You don't have to learn a thing about the world. You just have to live for 18. You just be alive for 18 years, and guess what they do? They put you on the highway. Yes, you have to go take a driver's test. Yes, I understand that. But, in the driving test, do they check how much raga, dvesham and moha you have? Do they give you an RDM test? They may even take a blood test and check whether your electrolytes are all balanced and you have the right number of blood cells and the right number of all this, that, and the other. They might even give you an eyesight test, but do they check how much raga, dvesha and moha you have? What's more dangerous? A blind driver or a driver who is blind with raga, dvesha and moha? Because the blind driver, at least if you know he's a blind driver, you can just let him go. But if the driver's got raga, dvesha and moha, there's no point letting him go because he might turn around and come back again. Just because he wants to ram his vehicle into yours. So, in what sense, in what way, ladies and gentlemen, have we matured, have we grown up just because we've turned 18? And what's the legal age for marriage? So, how did that work out for you? The thing is this, you can't wait until you turn 18. You couldn't wait for it. If you remember, go back to your younger years, when you were 14, 15, you were like, just a few more years. You just couldn't wait until you turned 18, because then you were allowed to find a life partner and get together with them and start a family. Legally, you were allowed to do that. But then, before you get married, do they give you a raga, dvesha, moha test? No one does that. When a boy comes and asks for your daughter's hand in marriage, what must what must a mother or father do? What sort of test must they give them? Puta, what are your educational qualifications? Where did you do your degree? UK. Ah, good. What's your surname, by the way? In some countries, they might even ask, what's your caste? Are you purebred? How much property do you have to your name? These are some of the things that they might ask. Who are your brothers? Who are your sisters? What do they do? These are some of the things that they ask. But what guarantee is that after they have taken your daughter's hand in marriage, that they will always treat her like you have always treated them? With compassion and love and kindness. See, how can you trust someone who has a smile on their face and they come up to you and they promise you, I will look after her? They're giving you a promise for now and forever. You can accept that promise if it were only for now, because right now they're happy. Why don't you understand that, ladies and gentlemen? Why don't you get that? Someone comes up to you and asks your son's or daughter's hand in marriage, right? At that moment, they're happy. They'll smile and then they're happy because you have accepted them into your home, you have invited them, you welcome them, right? Maybe, they're happy and they're hopeful that you will say yes. And because they want a yes from you, they will, of course, lick your boots if they have to. But then what guarantee is that a year from now, let alone a year from now, in 3 months from now, he or she will treat your beloved child in the same way that they promised that they would do at the moment they make this promise? In other words, how can you trust a promise? What is a promise? How can you trust a promise from someone who is full of raga, dvesha and moha? If any one of you has ever gone through a divorce, or if any one of you knows someone who has gone through one, right? Was that not a trust, a promise based on trust? Was that not a promise once made? The problem was not the promise itself. The problem was that before you trusted that promise, you never checked whether they had raga, dvesha and moha with them. That's your fault. Anyone can come make promises. It's like when you go to the shop, anyone could hand you out a $1,000 bill. It's your responsibility to check that it's not fake. It's your responsibility. So whenever someone makes a promise to you, it's your responsibility to make sure that that promise is solid. It's a good promise. That is kosher, for want of a better word. That's Hebrew, by the way. It's your responsibility to check that. So how can you trust any promise? Someone says, can I borrow some money from you? I'll return it to you in 2 Tuesdays' time. You say, all right, okay. Because you remember once they borrowed some money and they returned it to you. I liked in this moment to borrow that caveat that they have in the stock market. Whenever you make an investment in the stock market, they have this nice caveat. Past performance is not an indication of future performance or future results or whatever. I remember I always had to tick yes to that one. So past performance is never an indication of what's going to happen in the future. So when someone borrows some money from you and they say, I'll return it to you in 2 Tuesdays' time, you say, okay, you did it once, so I'm sure you'll do it again. I'm sure you will return it to me again. The reason you do that is because in your mind, you think that it was that person who's now come to ask you on this occasion. There's the same person. You can't stop yourself from feeling that way. You think it's the same person. You actually think you live with the same person you got married to 2 years ago. Whenever you got married, you think you live with the same person, right? Really? Are you still living with the person you got married to? So nothing has changed about them? Everything's changed about them, both mentally and physically. But in your mind, remember that red line you drew around the brick man? That entity? The one that I could just take out piece by piece and still it remained on my palm? Remember? And then I was able to just somehow just magically transfer it to my other hand. And then you were looking at it. That's what you do. The mind creates these entities. And so you think today that you're still married to the same person you got onto the porva with. You exchanged vows with. You exchanged rings with. You still think you're married to the same person. And they think they're married to the same person. When in reality, you're just in a dream. There are no entities in this world, ladies and gentlemen. But you can't stop yourself from sensing entities because those entities are created in your own mind. They're not out there, they're created in your mind. And for as long as ignorance and attachment will prevail in your mind will carry on creating these entities because that's what it vexes for. That's why I said, how can you trust yourself? Let alone trusting the driver of your car, let alone trusting the driver of the car that's coming at you. How can you trust yourself? I have often thought this to myself. Sometimes when we have to cross the road, right? Let's say we are crossing on the zebra crossing. And then vehicles come up to you and then they stop, right? They pause and they allow you to, sometimes they even wave you across. I've often thought to myself, how can I trust them? I am trusting them to keep their foot on the brake pedal until I cross the road. How can I trust them? How do I know that they're not going to change their mind the moment I step foot on the pedestrian crossing? Because it's possible, isn't it? It's possible that they could, but then I have a feeling, I get this false sense of security that it's all going to be okay. Today, as we were coming in, just after we drove past the monastery, I saw a vehicle. There was a pickup truck. And in the back of that, there was a gentleman who was stood in the cabin, not inside, the outside, where they carry stuff. So he was stood on there and holding on to the bar, and this vehicle was just driving at a real speed. And I was thinking to myself, this man, see how much he trusts himself? Because all he has to do is lose consciousness, faint for a second. And if the vehicle has to brake, apply the brakes for just a flash of a second, then he's a goner. But the problem is this: your mind never likes to think about what it doesn't like to think about. It's simple as that. You only like to project a positive outcome for you. Your mind has a tendency to do that. That's why even when you have your exams coming up, you still feel like it's okay to sit down and watch the games, watch the cricket, watch the football, because it will all be fine. I will pass the exam. Your mind tends to think like that because it doesn't like to think of negative outcomes. Things that your mind doesn't enjoy, it doesn't like to think about them. That's why when you cross the street, you feel so confident that nothing's going to happen. Sometimes don't you end up taking real risks, and then bystanders say, are you mad to cross like that? When you see vehicles approaching you so fast, but you think to yourself, no, I can make it. You think to yourself, it's just one hop and a skip. I can make it. There have been people who have made it, and there have been people who haven't, or who have made it to their coffins as a result of taking those risks. So it's not a case of whether you believe you can or not. Don't trust yourself. You have been given a lease of life, and you have been sat in the driver's seat. Do you think it's fair on you? Just think about this for a moment, okay? It's almost like God's playing a practical joke on you. What He's done is He's given you a lease of life. 80 years, 90 years, say 100, no, what did we agree? 120, right, 120. So He's given you 120 years, a 120-year lease, and He has sat you in the driver's seat, full of raga, dvesha and moha. And He said, bon voyage. I ask you this question, do you think that's fair on you? Look at all the things that you have done to yourself in the last 40 years that you have been alive, 50, 60 years you've been alive, 20 years you've been alive. How many things in your life do you wish today you would reverse if you could, undo, do a Control Z if you could? Many. Many. Far more than you can care to remember. That's how many. So I mean, if I were given another lease of life, there are these things I would never do again, because when I went to do them, I didn't have the wisdom I have today. In other words, what you're saying is, I had a lot of raga, dvesha and moha. But those mistakes I can't now undo. I wish I was wiser, you might tell yourself. I wish I was more astute, you might tell yourself. But you have to deal with your life. That's the thing. I can't deal with your life for you. You have to deal with your life. God cannot deal with your life. You have to deal with your own life. The Buddha cannot deal with your life. You have to deal with your own life. All those opportunities have been given to you. Now, go play. You've been given the dough, now go play. You've been given the clay, now go mold. You've been given string, now go weave. And that's what you're doing with your lives. So ladies and gentlemen, it's really important, it's critical, it's crucial, it's imperative that you learn how to free your mind from raga, dvesha and moha, desire, aversion and delusion, because unless and until you do that, you will end up a disaster. You will end up a wreck. Who here wants the last day of their living life to regret the last 8 years that they have been alive? Who here wants to do that? Nobody wants to do that. No one wants to do that. Let's travel in our mind. Let's travel in time. Okay, let's travel in time. I want you all to imagine this for a second, right? You're on your bed. Today's your last day. So imagine that day for a second. Today's your last day. You're on your beds. People come see you and go. They come to you, they hold your hand, they talk to you, they say nice things, they say lovely things about you. That's what they're supposed to do. Because you still have some land left to your name. And am I being a bit cynical today? So if you want people to come and say bye to you before you go, then make sure you leave some land to your name, or some money into your bank account. So people come and they talk to you. Right? They bring you flowers, and they leave the flowers by the bedside table. They bring you a box of chocolates, and they leave it there. They switch on the telly for you. They ask you, "Would you like to watch some telly, Granny?" They ask you that. So you're like, "Yeah, put some telly on." So you just keep staring at the telly. And then they come, the grandchildren, they come. They also come and talk to you. Now, this is a day that's inevitable for all of you. So I want you to imagine yourself on that day. It's not hard to imagine, right? Because it's an inevitable day. I'm not asking you to imagine yourself on the moon. That is not going to happen for all of us. But your last day alive, that's bound to happen for all of us. So I want you to imagine what that day is going to be like. Now that day has arrived. It is that day today. You're on your bed. You're all alone. Well, people come and go. But then you realize, all these young people, they have all their life left ahead of them. I'm now old and today's my last day. If at that moment, your mind starts to wander, and it starts to recall the last however many years you can remember. Let's say it flashes back, the last 50 years flash back in front of your eyes, in your mind. If there are many mistakes you have made, many instances where you wish you had made a different choice altogether, you're going to regret on that day. you'll tell yourself that was a sad life. You won't be happy. You know, it won't matter if you had been as happy can be throughout your life if in the last moment you're not. Let me prove that point to you for a second. Why this is an important thing to consider. Think about this for a second, okay? Say, someone gives you a gift. It's your birthday. When you receive that gift, you open it, and it's something you really like. Okay, I'm talking about that precise moment. Okay, that precise moment where you open the gift and it's something you really like. Aren't you happy? Aren't you happy? It's a very simple question. Yes, of course you're happy. That happiness, does it only last a single moment, or does it live on for a little bit? It lives on for a little bit, doesn't it? Sometimes you might even rejoice in it, enjoy it for maybe a few minutes, maybe a few hours, maybe even a few days, if you really like it. But the trigger only happened in one moment. Agreed? The trigger, what was the trigger? Them giving you the gift, you opening it up and you having a look at it and you liking, you seeing it and you thought, wow, that's nice, I like it. It's a nice fancy watch, let's say, or something you like. But that joy, it lives on, it lingers on for a little while. In the same way, when someone does something to bother you, annoy you, irritate you, is that also just momentary, or does it linger on for a little while? It lingers on for a little while, doesn't it? Even after the point of the trigger. So the trigger is only momentary. But that aftertaste, it lives on for a little while. See, now in the same way, if today is your last day, and you are remembered of a time when you were unhappy, or a time in your life where you did something you shouldn't have done, a mistake that you had made, a great blunder, a huge mistake, something you regret, how can you tell me that that thought will not linger on until your last moment? Imagine it's the last 5 minutes. So you have 600 seconds on the clock. Sorry, what? 300 seconds, right? 300 seconds on the clock. You have 300 seconds on the clock, your last 5 minutes, and something you regret comes to your mind. Someone you don't like to see walks in through the door. That's always a possibility. Let's say you really don't get on with your in-laws. I'm just saying, right? What if you really don't get on with your in-laws? And they happen to walk in? The last people you want to see just walking through the door. Or let's say there's something that's really precious to you, some material object that's really precious to you, and it's placed on the side on a bedside table or something, and someone knocks into it, it falls on the floor, and it crashes. Now that shock, it lingers with you. You only got 5 minutes to recover yourself. This is the last 5 minutes. You know well and truly, when something so impactful happens, they live on for more than 5 minutes. Sometimes it's 5 days. See, you're about to pull your last breath in. You've only got another 5 minutes to go, and the clock is ticking, the clock is counting down. In those moments, ladies and gentlemen, you are so fragile. You are so vulnerable. If you don't work on your raga, dvesha and moha, what does it matter whether you have been as happy can be throughout your life? Because in those last 5 minutes, if something happens to you which you don't like, something that bothers you, something that annoys you, something that angers you, something that ignites lust within you, that thought will live on for longer than that 5 minutes. It will linger on even after your body has given up. Because death is merely your body giving up. Parinirvana is your mind giving up. This is just your body giving up. Your body gives up, but your mind is still there. Now the mind is contemplating whatever it is that just came to your mind, whether that was desire, whether that was lust, whether that was anger, whether that was jealousy, all sorts of things will come to your mind. All it takes is your phone to ring. The phone rings and you see a name that you really don't want to see, maybe someone who borrowed some money from you. They don't know that you're spending your last 5 minutes, they just want to borrow some more money. And their name flashes across on the phone screen. You only have resent towards them, nothing more than that. Now, that is the thought that occurs to you in that moment. That's why, people sometimes come and ask us, Swaminatha, my mother is very poorly. Should we chant Pirit? Yeah, we've tried to ask her, but she can't respond because now she can't speak. Should we chant Pirit? Should we bring the monks to her and maybe make a blessing? In those moments, we don't immediately say yes to that question because it all depends. What if the mother hated monks? You think I'm kidding? There are some who, even in their last will, right, they leave huge funds, donations, and say, anyone but a monk. That's their last will. You may make this donation to anyone, but not to a temple. 9 times out of 10, they are Buddhists by religion. Simply because they had a misfortunate encounter. But little do they know that they have now generalized. One bad apple doesn't mean the whole basket is rotten. But I'm just saying, there are people who I have personally seen who are like that. But they're only doing themselves a disservice by doing that. So if you ask me, Swaminatha, my mother, she can't speak, we've tried to engage with her, she's not responding, would you please come and chant some Pirit? I can't say yes or no to that. I don't know whether that's the right or wrong thing to do. What if she really doesn't like me? What if until I happened in your life, you were always with her on Sunday morning? And then I happened. And then the time that she had to be with you, now she doesn't. So who's the bane of her life? So she sees me walking through the door. That's not the last thing that you wanted to think of. That's the thing, in those last 5 minutes is not the time to salvage. Forget this salvage nonsense. It's okay, we can make an effort, we can make an attempt, right? But please don't leave yourselves until that last moment. When you're at the mercy of people who don't know what's right or wrong for you, and they'll just do what they think is right or wrong for you, don't leave yourselves to their mercy when you have been given 80 years to sort yourself out. You have been given 80 long years to sort yourself out. It's like cramming for your exams. You know the drill, don't you? You've been given 2 whole years to prepare for your A-level exams. 2 whole years to prepare for your O-level exams. When do you study? T and B, the night before. Don't try to cram Nibbāna. Doesn't work like that. Because Nibbāna is your mind learning to finally realize that your self is merely a fantasy. That needs prolonged, enduring practice. I have been ordained for 8 years now, ladies and gentlemen, and I still haven't become an arahant. What are you waiting for? For the last 8 years, I have been at the feet of my teacher, in and amongst noble association, at a monastery. I don't eat without contemplating and doing my pratyariksha. I don't make use of the kuti without doing my pratyariksha. I don't put on my robe without doing my pratyariksha. Each of these a reflection of Nibbāna. Every day we discuss the Dhamma. We immerse ourselves in the Dhamma. We chant Pirit. We earn merits. That's all I've been doing for the last 8 long years. And I still haven't become an arahant. What am I trying to say? What's your plan? For 8 long years I've been doing it and it still hasn't happened. I don't know when it's going to happen. I don't know if it will happen. I know that somewhere down the line it has to happen. Of that I'm confident, but timescales? Who knows? So how can you gamble with your life? What makes you think that you will carry on living your lives as you do right now, right? Then the last 5, after you've retired. After you've retired, after you've taken your retirement, then the last 5, 6, 7, 10 years you will put to the sasana, right? When you can't keep yourself awake, when you can't hold your head back straight, right? When you can't keep what should be... No, let's leave it there. How can you gamble with your life like that? I'm not suggesting here that you should be coming to the sasana to become monks and nuns or whatever, but what I'm just giving you food for thought. I need each and every one of you to take personal responsibility for your lives. Don't just think that just because my teacher said that this is the way I have to live, this is the way I have to live. They only just told you what they knew. Don't just think that just because your parents advised you, this is how you got to live your life, this is how you got to live your life. Go and check what your mother and father did when and if they're happy today. Your grandmother, your grandfather might have given you advice, might have given you instruction and guidance. But where are they today? Did they die happy? The thing is, today we have become too materialistic. People only believe what the eyes can see and what the ears can hear. They don't believe in the preta worlds. Most people don't. Because they need everything to be proven in a laboratory. Well, the best laboratory is a laboratory of life. As Guru Hamar always says, die and see. Then you'll be convinced, won't you? There are some who have the ability, who have the powers to see beyond what the physical eye sees, and they make it known to people. But then, because you can't see it, you simply deny that. Because it's not proven at MIT. Because it's not proven at Harvard, or at Oxford, or at Cambridge, you deny that. It's not science. Or so you think. There's a danger, ladies and gentlemen, in being a materialistic person. In only materialistic in this sense, in the sense that you think all that exists is what the eyes can see and what the eyes and the ears can hear. If I can touch it, it must be there. If not, it cannot be. Shall I give you living evidence of the fact that you are wrong? Don't you all sense a self? Is that real? I rest my case then. You all sense a sense of self, which you can clearly sense day in, day out. But even that is not real. So when your core identity itself is fake, what gives you the liberty to question and claim that it's only what my eyes can see and my ears can hear have to be real and nothing else? When you have been living in a falsehood throughout your lives. Today you understand that your sense of self is merely a fabrication of your own mind. But you only learned that once you came across a Dhamma. Until such time you thought, yeah, I am very real. This is me. This is I am me. Something that you have experienced your entire life, today in front of your very eyes, you are realizing that it is just a fallacy. So if what you have personally experienced you can no longer believe in, how does that give you the right or the liberty to think that, well, what the eyes cannot see does not exist? You must not be narrow-minded like that. If we do so, we will only be doing ourselves a disservice. You know, people are not pretending when they get possessed. And it has happened in front of my own eyes many times. And then you question them, like, speak, who are you? And then you ask them very specific questions, questions that the person you're asking from the physical person, there's no way they can know. And still they answer. I recall one instance. The first or second year when we started the monastery, there was a family that came to the monastery. And at the time, mother and father, they had children who were young at the time. And so this mother, she confessed that she had not lived a very holy life. She'd done all sorts, not all sorts, but she had done things that she was not proud of. And so she would come to confess. So we allowed her to make that confession. But she was very ill at the time, and she didn't have much longer to live, which probably prompted her to come and find peace, which is what people tend to do. They try to cram Nibbāna. That's what I'm saying. Don't try to do that. Don't try to cram Nibbāna. It doesn't work like that. Yeah, you'll find some mental peace just because you make a confession. You now feel like I don't have to bottle everything inside of me. You feel that the pressure has been relieved. That's all that's happened, by the way. When you make a confession, all that's happened is the pressure has been relieved, but the defilements, they're still there. No difference there. The amount of raga, dvesha and moha are just the same. So don't just think that just because you make a confession, it's all now. Varak vendot kalaniye. Doesn't work like that. Kalaniye, yes, if you mean Kalani is Kalyana Mitra, then yes. That's what we talked about this once. So the mother, she came and she made her confessions and she found peace to some extent because she couldn't help herself from thinking that it was her who had committed those sins. That's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. When regret strikes, when regret strikes, it's one of the most painful attacks there are. Regret. So that's what she was trying to deal with, and we gave her some solace. We tried to explain the Dhamma to her, but her mind was not in a state where she was prepared to understand the Dhamma. She listened, she tried, but she couldn't make sense of it because she just didn't have enough merits to make sense of the Dhamma. If you give her a Euclidean geometry, she could probably solve it, but give her the Dhamma, doesn't compute. It goes with merits, doesn't work otherwise, and you have to have a peaceful mind. So fast forward 4 years or so, and we got to know that she'd passed away. So the family came to make an offering an almsgiving, and they also wanted to do this Dolospirikara, the 12-fold offering. Those who know will know. It's something that we do to pass merits to our loved ones after they are gone, in the hope that if they are still in the Preta worlds, they might be able to fulfill whatever they lack in merits and come back into a human womb and conceive and become a human being again. But in the meantime, they're looking for merits to be conceived as humans again. So this the children, they came, and so they had brought all this alms and all that. And so after the alms offering, it happened that for some reason, I was the one who was on that day tasked with the duty of doing the Dolospirikara offering. So I started. So she was sat about 20 yards away from me, and when we started, everything was fine. After a little while, she got up and she started jumping. So this is in the middle of the procession. And then she started screaming. So now at this moment we are doing this Dolospirikara merit transfer. So I said, this is what happened in front of my very eyes. And then, so we had to put some pirit water to get her to settle. And once she had done, once she'd settled down, I went to talk to her. And I said, who are you? And then she started sharing things with me, and she said she'd come to see me before, but this is the first time that I'd seen her physically. But now I realized who she was talking about, because this kind of happened once we started reading out the names of the dead ones. And then I started asking questions, because I wanted to verify whether she was just doing a drama or whether this was actually for real. And so I asked her questions about our meeting back then. And things that I only spoke with her. She came the other day with her husband, but at one point the husband left. So I said things only to her. She knew. She could answer those things, those questions. They were very personal questions, which convinced to me with no doubt that this was that mother who had now possessed the girl. And what she was asking was for peace. She had a grudge with her daughter. She had this grudge that the daughter never looked after her when she was older. That when she was younger and when she was capable, she had sacrificed her entire life for her daughter. But as the daughter grew up, she didn't care about her parents. She went, got married, started her own family, and even when the mother was poorly, she couldn't care less about her mother. And the mother now had a grudge with her daughter. So she said, I'm here to settle that. This is what she told me. That was my first encounter. I'd heard of such things, but to have seen it with my own eyes and heard it with my own ears, that was the first time. And that was enough to convince me. I had seen through the Dhamma before, but this time round I'd seen it with my own eyes. So then I explained, there's no point in doing this now, because the more you hurt her, the more you harm her, things are only going to get worse for you. Things are only going to get worse for you, because if you now cause mischief and you cause harm and havoc here, your daughter's life is in danger, and if you end up causing her harm, then that's going to be demerit for you as well. So I'm trying to help you here. Why don't you let go of her? We will look after you. Right? Whatever merits you're lacking in, let us do this offering and transfer merits to you, so that you can then be freed and go and achieve whatever you want, but there's no point now. That's what I had to explain. There's no point in doing this, in trying to settle a grudge. No good is going to happen to you. So after many occasions or many times of convincing, she was prepared to let go. And then when the daughter was, say, exercised, we then spoke with her. And then the first thing I explained to her was, this is what happened, because she had no idea what had happened to her. I said, this is what happened. We didn't have cameras and all that back then, so it was never recorded on a camera lens. So this is what happened to you, but I need you, this is what I said to the daughter, I need you now not to be angry towards your mother. Because if what you try and do now is to somehow chase your mother, or say good riddance and try and get rid of her, or do harm to her so that you can be freed from her influence, then she's going to sense that. And then she's going to retaliate, and it's going to be harder and more painful next time. So don't do that. All you're supposed to do now is sabba sattesu metta sahagatena cetasa viharanang samadhiyami. I ask you to promise me you will only act with benevolence, kindness, and congeniality towards your mother. Is it true or not that during her last years you did not care much about her? She said, yes, Swami answered. My mind was elsewhere. I had different interests. I was only interested in my own family and my own well-being. I couldn't care about my mother. I knew she was ill, but I couldn't care less at the time. It's not the things that I'd learned when I was younger. But my parents educated me. They did that, but they never taught us the value of treating parents, looking after them, treating your adults. They never taught us the values of doing such things. So I didn't know either. And so in some ways it's unfair that my mother is doing this to me because she never taught me these things. I said, yes, you're right. You're right. But there's no point trying to explain that to your mother now. Now she's on an agenda of revenge. So I said, I can't fix your mother now, but I can only help you. Always be compassionate now from here on towards your mother and only wish her well. So as you do this merit transfer, I explained to her, don't ever do it thinking, good riddance, let's do this merit transfer and get her the hell out of here. Don't ever do that, because she will sense that that's what you're up to and she will not leave. She will keep coming back to bother you. So I had to explain that to her before we started, and then she got the point. And so later on she agreed, and that's how we brought that. We continued with the merit transfer. This is not the first time things like this have happened, ladies and gentlemen. And it's never going to be the last time. I don't want you to think that it's only what you see through your eyes exists in this world, and only what you hear through your ears exists in this world. Like I said, if your very existence itself, your sense of identity is a fallacy, then you can be fooled, right? You have been fooled your entire existence in samsara. If that's how vulnerable you are to being fooled, so much so that you end up fooling yourself, then don't let your eyes and ears fool you. So karma is for real. Bad karma brings you bad vipāka. That's for real. That's not a joke. It's not just a story that we tell ourselves so that we can have a just society. It's not so. Something I always tell our teachers at the monastery, when we look after our children, something I always remind them, never punish a child for something they have done. But parents mostly don't understand this. Sometimes even teachers don't understand this. I mean teachers outside, they don't understand this. People don't understand this. They punish children for what they have done. You don't need to punish someone for what they have done. If they have done wrong, then that wrongdoing is the punishment itself, isn't it? When you have karma to sort it out, why do you need someone else to get involved in inflicting punishment? That's not the role of a teacher. The role of a teacher is to prevent such a wrongdoing in the future. So it's not more like it's not so much a punishment for what has been done. You can call it a punishment if you want, but it's a punishment to prevent them, to stop them, to avoid them doing the same mistake again, which can only be done out of compassion. But if you punish because you are angry about what has happened, now that is done out of retaliation. That is done with anger, resentment. Who do you think that does harm to? The person who inflicts the punishment. Now don't you see a domino effect there? It becomes a vicious cycle. One person does something wrong, the next person comes and punishes them. Now who's done wrong? The person who's just punished has done the wrong. And then they're going to be punished by someone else. And then they're going to be punished. So you see, there's no end to this. So as parents, if you come and ask me, Swaminathan, should we punish our children? Yes, you should. But what for? That's the question. Not for what they have done. If they have done something wrong, if they have done something bad, ladies and gentlemen, out of compassion and love for them, punish them so that they will not make the same mistake again. Because if they make the same mistake again, they have to suffer again. You can't punish because you suffer. You have to punish because they will suffer. The focus is not on you. The focus is on them. See, I have to ask the question again. Before you decided to become a mother or a father, did they check you for raga, dvesha, moha? Don't you think that, those strips that you use to check pregnancy tests, strips, shouldn't they have like a an indicator that shows how much raga, dvesha, moha you have? In addition to indicating whether you're pregnant or not. Because if we don't do that, then what good do we do by becoming parents? Just because you are adults, that qualifies you to become parents? Really? That's the law of the animal world. When they can conceive, they conceive. When they're of age, they conceive. That's the law of the animal world. It shouldn't be so for human beings. We are all blessed with a fantastic opportunity to heal the world. And you can do that by healing yourself and then healing everyone on whom you have an impact, you have an influence. Starting with your children, with your parents, with your siblings, with your friends, people who trust you, people who look up to you. But you have to start from within. That's why every single step you take, every inch you move forward on this journey of redeeming yourself from raga, dvesha and moha, ladies and gentlemen, is not just a blessing to yourself, but it's a blessing to the whole world. That's why every now and then I remind you, you're not average people. You're not an average human being. So don't think like average people. Don't do what average people do. You're not average anymore because you have come across the teaching that helps you to redeem yourself from raga, dvesha and moha. That elevates you from mediocrity to excellence. Don't consider yourselves mediocre. Don't you think differently to how you used to? 6 weeks ago, 6 months ago, 6 years ago? That change in your paradigm, in the way you think, that's a huge change. You're here to make a dent in the universe. Not just me, all of us. It starts with charity, and charity starts at home. Home is not your physical home. Home is the home in which you all live right now. This mind. Your duty to yourself is to free yourself from raga, desha and moha. So I felicitate you, I congratulate you for what you're doing here, for bringing yourselves here every Sunday morning. I don't for one moment think that it's easy to do that. You have commitments, you have obligations, you have responsibilities, I understand. If you'd stayed at home right now, if you went to the your workplace right now, on a Sunday morning, you could probably made more money. And that's what people want from you. You could have served your company. That's what people want from you. You could have served your family. That's what people want from you, because they all only look short term. They don't see how when you invest time, good quality time, in your own personal development, in redeeming yourself from raga, desha, moha, how that is a far better investment than just being at home and cooking an extra dish just because it's Sunday morning. Rest of the week, it's 3 curries and rice, but every Sunday you get to make a pudding. Don't stay home on Sunday just so that you can make the pudding. Buy a pudding on your way back home. Let someone else make that. Someone who is yet to come across the Buddha's teaching. Let someone else do that. That's why I don't invest my time in cooking my meals. You do that. Because I have to go hunting. I have to go hunting so that I can feed your psyche. While you cook, I go hunt. We go hunt. We are monks. We go hunting. We go hunting for the truths of the universe. We explore how things happen, how things work. What is this cause and effect? Why did the Buddha come into this world? What was his job? What did he preach? What did he teach? Why does the world need a Buddha? What does the world not have in his absence? These are questions we go looking for, we go hunting for answers. So. And then we bring that back. And when I come back, you have cooked my meal. But don't you think that's worthwhile? Or would you rather me cook my own meal and you cook your own meal, and then we will all die mediocre as mundane human beings? Shall we just live because we were born and die because we lived? Is that what we were born for? Just to live because we were born? And then once we have done our time, it's time to die, so let's die. And in the meantime, just keep doing something because we are alive? Don't stoop yourselves to that lower level. Don't undermine yourselves like that. Raga, desha, moha is with which you have your fight, ladies and gentlemen. That's why I propose, before you become a mother, before you become a father, every young man and woman must be given a lesson in raga, desha and moha, in anicca, dukkha and anatta, so that they can understand that it's raga, desha and moha that are their worst demons and they work from within. Because until you do that with them, the poor children are going to suffer. That's why on occasions at least, your children would have been punished for their mistakes. Now parents, you will have to agree. Because until perhaps you reflected through the Dhamma, or maybe I just shared with you right now, just a few moments ago, you also thought that you have to punish someone for something they have done. Because that's how the law works. That's how the prison works. So just think about it for a second. Someone commits a crime, you put that man into prison with people who are also criminals. So all he's done is broken into a house. Now you put him with people who know how to break into banks. What do you think they're going to do together? Observe still? Someone who's committed a petty crime gets put into prison with someone who's committed heinous sins within the same perimeter, under the same roof. Now that is the association they're going to have. That tells me that the prison system is a punishment for what they have done. Here's my proposal. If you want punishment for what it's worth, you put them among saints. You put them with good people. People who are not sinners. Admitted, every saint was once a sinner. But how did they become saints? They stopped their association with sinners and they started associating with saints. That's how you make a saint out of a sinner. But I don't see that's how the prison system works. I know my proposals will just be music to deaf ears. Because as I'm sure you're probably screaming from the back of the room going, Swami Nansa, impractical. Well, practical or impractical, don't you think that that is what we ought to do? That's why we have a rehab center at the monastery. Young people who've done drugs, addicted, they come and spend time with us. And then we teach them the Dhamma. We rehabilitate them, not just physically, but we rehabilitate their minds. To the point where they realize that true happiness does not come in a pill. True happiness need not be sought from the outside world. It doesn't come in a bottle. It doesn't come in a fag packet. It doesn't come as a powder or a pill. It's always there with you. Once you realize that, you no longer need drugs. Two of our best rehabilitants are now anagarikas with us at the monastery. See? So from here henceforth, they will complete a year at the monastery as anagarikas. You've seen anagarikas, they've always come and gone. We don't label them and say, this is guy from the rehab center. No? Because ultimately, aren't we all people who need rehabilitation? How come they're any special? Just because you don't do drugs. You think you're not addicted? Addictions come in all shapes and sizes. Addiction to food is all right because it's legal, it's legitimate. Addiction to ecstasy, that's not good. See, addiction to orange juice is okay. But addiction to, I don't know, you say. Addiction to whatever it is, wine, arak, all that, that's not okay. That's bad because that causes harm to society. See, that's where society draws the line. It's not out of compassion and love for you. It's in their best interest. Because if you drink as much orange juice as they can produce, that's good for them. But if you start taking too much alcohol, now you become a nuisance to them. So all in moderation. Sura mere majjapama dattana. I have no words. And then you even twist the Buddha's teaching to make it fit with your model for life, your philosophy. If Buddha's philosophy doesn't work, then I'll make my own up, and then I'll somehow shoehorn his philosophy into mine. That's what I'm saying. Two of our rehabilitants are now anagarikas with us, and soon enough we'll have more joining. See, I mean, isn't that what we should be doing with people who've gone wrong? For one reason or the other, right? Some demerit that they had done in their life in samsara, they had to come across bad association. That's all it was. No, it's not because they were bad, it's just their demerit from the past. Put them into association with bad people. Not bad people per se, but people who were doing bad things. Does that mean that they have no merit at all? What did Jesus say? When there was a woman who had to be stoned to death, and then she was put in the ground, and then all the villagers, they came around, they held rocks in their hand, they were all ready to fire them at this woman for adultery or something. I think it was, yes. And Jesus arrived in good time because she had merits. And he said what? May he who has not sinned cast the first stone. So they all dropped whatever they had in their hands and they walked away. Because she had the merits to meet Jesus Christ. Although she had committed adultery, and that is a sin, but she had the good merits to meet Jesus Christ. You didn't meet Jesus Christ, did you? See, that's what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen. It's our duty, our obligation. That is my purpose on this planet. Is to be a magnet for people's merit power. It's both to be a magnet for people's merit power and then to encourage them to earn even more merits, to keep on earning more merits. Not forever, because that's not the be-all and end-all. It's a means to an end, certainly. There's no point just looping around in this world. Good today, bad tomorrow, good today, bad tomorrow. There's no point doing that. But until we find that exit, until we approach that exit, shouldn't we all be able to live a good life? A peaceful life? A life in which we don't have to suffer unnecessarily. That is my purpose. What is yours? I have asked this from you before, and I'll ask it from you again. Why do you settle for just being a mother to 2 children? Is that the capacity? Is that your capacity? Is that your potential? Why do you limit yourself to that? Why are you just a father to 2 children, 3 children, 4 children, 5 children? Why do you limit yourself there? Why can't you be a father to everyone? You're a human being just as much as I am. If this human being can do that, why can't that human being do that? Think more and then you can be more, ladies and gentlemen. Think more. But you can't think more when raga, dvesha and moha have got you bound and wound. Because the more raga, dvesha and moha you have, the more self-oriented you are, and the more self-oriented you are, the smaller your world is, because your self is really nothing. So your world is really nothing. It's micro. That's the size of your world, microscopic. That's all you can scan, that's all you can examine, that's all you can care about. Myself, me, myself and I. The three people you care about the most. And then the people who are in very close proximity to you. So that's what people do, from a young age. They want to quickly find people, those people who are supposed to be with them and their family, their husband, their wife, their children. They quickly go and find these people. Because they're out there somewhere, your life partner. You have to find them somewhere, quickly, before your time's up. It's almost like we feel that there's a clock ticking inside. We have to quickly find our partner. And so you quickly go and find the partner and say, fine, right, now we are a couple. Whew. So now I'm me in my little small world, and then there's you in that little small world, and then together we are a little couple. Oh, so cute. And then to make our world complete, we need a few more minions. So bring a few more little ones, and then our little family. You forget that you were born with the capacity to serve the entire mankind. You were born with the capacity to serve humanity. You have settled for being a father to true children. My point is this, whatever you settle for, it may or may not matter, because someone else will come forward and then say, I will look after your children, I look after their children, I look after your children, I look after your children, look after all your children. So don't you worry. He or she will say to you, and that will include your children as well. So it may or may not matter to you. But here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, the more you think like that, the more self-centered you are, the more self-centric you are, the more you want to survive in this small world where you preserve yourself and everything that's to do with you, the longer your journey is in samsara. Because here's the deal, you don't belong to yourself. You belong to the universe. And until the day comes where you accept that and you let yourself go, the universe will keep on punishing you. I don't know how much of what I have just explained actually makes sense to you, because I'm talking about a different paradigm altogether. This is on a different dimension. But this is the reality. This is reality. This is the truth that I need you all to wake up to. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow, but one day you have to realize this, ladies and gentlemen. Don't settle for what you are right now. Don't forget that you were born in a mother's womb. And everyone who's born in a womb will die at a tomb. Don't forget that. The very fact that you were born to a mother implies that you were self-centered. Because you chose someone as your own mother. Those who are not self-centered, they're not born. They're always there. What do I mean by that? They don't have to be born to be there. They're always there. That doesn't make sense, does it? I'll try and explain. But forgive me, I'm still finding the words, because these are things I've not heard before. So I'm still, as they flow, I'm trying to find the words, and the words keep always failing me. So I'll keep on trying. When you become self-centered, Now, the most important thing on the agenda is what? Me. So I have to be born then, because I have to make my mark on this planet. So I have to be born for that. There has to be place, there has to be a place, it has to have a longitude and a latitude. This is where I am. I am born and I am here, see, I am present. So you can't be omnipresent. You can't, can you? You can't be everywhere all the time, right? But what about God? What about energy? What about nature? What about the universe? It's everywhere all the time. You're only here right now. You can't be omnipresent. Why did that happen? Because you are self-centered. When you're self-centered, it matters to you that you exist. And so because you have to exist, you have to now find a mother. There has to be a womb, and so now she is your mother. So now you can't look at all mothers the same. Your mother becomes special. See, again that world in which I am there, and people who I have a close relationship with, they're there, my spouse is there, my children are there, my siblings are there, we're a small family. We're nice, we're happy, we're a loving family. That's the size of your world. It's a very small world. And then here's what happens next. Next door neighbor, he does the same. Next door neighbor, she does the same. Everywhere they keep doing the same. So now there are just pockets of families. And they're all fighting for themselves. It's always a constant battle for their own preservation, self-preservation. Whenever there's self-preservation, there's always competition. Because they're all fighting for a piece of nature. That's what they're fighting for. Sorry, today's talk is very philosophical. You might ask me, what am I supposed to do at the end of this Swaminathan? What's the practical stuff? Today is not one of those days. On the other days you get practical stuff. Today it's philosophical. I don't know what I'm going to say. It just happens, right? So that's what happened though. In every home along the street, when you drive up home, you see, as you drive each house, there's a family who lives in that house. And what do you think they're most concerned about? Whose well-being? Their well-being. So if you have a tree on your side of the fence and there's an overhang onto the other side, one of these days your neighbor's going to come and have a word with you. I said, please, can you sort it out? There's an overhang, and I'm the one who has to always rake the leaves, right? Do whatever. Your leaves always fall on my garden. I have to do that. Maybe to you that seems very natural, very normal. Isn't that what we're supposed to do, Swaminathan? But to me, that sounds very selfish. That fence, it's not really a fence. It's only a fence in your mind. See, when you were kids, didn't you used to have these play homes at home? So in your own room, you might have, if you had a room, you were fortunate enough to have your own room. If you were fortunate enough to have your own room, in your room, you would have had a playpen, right? And in there, you would have put up mattresses. I used to do that when I was a kid. So I bring mattresses, and then those become my walls. So when you surround yourself with 2 or 3 mattresses, now you have your little fortress, right? And I'm the king. So in there, I would cook my meals. So by cooking my meals, basically I go and ask my mother to cook something, and then I bring it, and then she has to come and buy it and pay for it, and she wants to come and eat at my restaurant. So I used to do all that sort of thing. See, now that's just a plaything, isn't it? So when you draw your architectural designs of your home, do you draw that part as well? Say someone wants to know what, the architectural design of your house. You have a kid who does that. They put up these mattresses, and then that's just for play. Do you draw that also in the blueprint? No, right? Because you know that that's not a fence. So where is the fence? The fence is in the mind. That's not a fence because that's just your kid playing. But what about the next door neighbor? Is he just playing when he put up a brick wall? No, that's a fence. One separation is that's just a game. But the other separation, that's for real. It's all in the mind. So then tell me, as you drive down your, what do you call it? Your neighborhood, as you drive down your neighborhood and you see the houses on either side of the road, right? You think, this is something practical you can do. As you drive, you see that's one people, those people, the Samarasekaras, the Veerasekaras, the Andrews, and the Anthonys, and the Vikramarachis, and the Vikramasinghas, right? And you keep driving down. You know one thing for certain, they are a pocket. They are a subset. In fact, they are a separated entity. Who do you think they are most concerned about? Themselves. Whose well-being do you think they are most concerned about? Theirs. Whose happiness do you think they are most concerned about? Theirs. Each one to their own. And when you have that, now that's the perfect breeding ground for competition. See, have you not seen sometimes when they have these, like the UN and so on, when they go and distribute dry rations, when there are, what do you call them? Either famines or natural disasters and so on. Right? When they open the truck, what do you see? People just throng, don't they? I mean, they don't come in an orderly queue unless they are forced to do that. Because why do they do that? That's the feeling of destitution. Where's whose part? Whose part? Where's my part? You see, in that moment, they don't care that if they take two of something, someone else will only get one. This is not a generalization of everyone. I'm just saying, typically this is what you see. And you might empathize with them. I understand that. They're hungry. But see what hunger has done to them? Think about this for a second. Why are they hungry? Is it because they have given or because they have taken? They have taken. Taken something that was meant to feed someone else's hunger, they have taken, and that's why they are hungry. What are they doing now? The same. It's incredibly difficult to change that mindset. That's why the poor will continue to be poor. It's a poor attitude. A hungry man's attitude, you can feed their hunger, but to change their attitude, sometimes even a lifetime is not long enough. My invitation is for all of you to think differently. I don't want any of you to be mediocre. Otherwise we needn't have met. It is my privilege and honor to be here. And I hope you feel the same. But it will only be so if because of this encounter, we can change a small part of the world. And where is that small part? Yes, it's with you, ladies and gentlemen. That is the small part I'm talking about. For me, a changed world is not a economically, materially developed world. For me, a different world is a world in which people have stopped thinking about themselves. And it's not about thinking about others, because once again, others are also an extension of self. Because there's me and there's them. There's me versus them. Others only exist because I exist. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a world where there are no me and there are no others. There's just necessity. There's a necessity. And let's address that necessity. If there's food on the table, if there's food on the plate, the question should not be whether I eat first or you eat first. What should it be then? The hungrier eats first. It won't matter whether it's you or I. Do you see the difference between I eat first is selfishness. You eat first apparently is selflessness, but that is selfish selflessness. It doesn't matter whether it's you or I. Who's hungrier? May they eat first. That's pure selflessness. That's the world that I envision. Where is that world? Where is that world? In a country far, far away, across the mountains. Is that where that world is? No. I'm not here to change the world, I'm here to change your world. What are you here for? To change the world or to change your world? To change your world. That's more than enough. Trust me, that's more than enough. Once you begin to make those small changes within yourself, ladies and gentlemen, that will have a huge impact on the others as well. People who live around you will begin to sense that you will give off a vibe, a very positive vibe, a vibe that is in harmony with nature. When the vibe that you give off is in harmony with nature, then nature responds to you. Nature provides. Nature gives you in abundance because you just have to resonate with nature, that's all. You've learned resonant frequencies and all that. When there's an object that has a natural frequency, which is the same as another frequency, now you don't have to have you don't have to make an extra effort. All you have to do is to vibrate the object, and those which have a natural frequency, which is equivalent to that, resonate. That's how you're supposed to work. See, they say in the Bible that God created man in his own figure. So people sometimes ask, does it mean that God also looks like us? I don't know that. Because to me, God is not what it might be to others. For me, God is nature. Nature never creates anything that is disharmonious with nature. It doesn't work like that. All of nature's creations are in harmony with nature. But your minds are capable of fabricating things that are not in harmony with nature. That is raga, dvesha and moha. They are not in harmony with nature. They're not congruent. They don't converge, they diverge. That's why it is incumbent upon each and every human being, therefore all of you included, it is incumbent upon each and every one of us, ladies and gentlemen, to redeem ourselves from raga, dvesha and moha. That has to be the purpose of your life. Doing that for oneself and helping others to achieve the same. If you love Gaia, Mother Earth, if you love the sky above your head, if you love the earth below your feet, if you love the waters, if you love the trees, if you love the planet, if you love your fellow human being, if you want the wars to stop someday, if you want to rid the world of hunger and poverty, if you want to rid the world of unnecessary suffering, If you envision a day where there is no cancer, make a change in that world. And that world is your world. Your world is your mind, it's your heart. It's the way you think. Raga, Desha and Moha are the culprits. Freedom from that comes from an understanding of anicca, dukkha and anatta. It comes from your freedom from your sense of self. Because your sense of self is completely wound and bound with raga, dvesha and moha. Raga, dvesha and moha personified is yourself. Actually, that's a really nice way of putting it. Thank you. Raga, dvesha and moha personified. That is your sense of self. Once again, I don't know how much of what I've shared with you makes sense, but it makes sense to me. So I know that the message that I have shared with you is a good one. I know that it's a noble message. And it's one I want you all to aspire to. It's easier for me because this is what I have committed and devoted my life to. And it's going to be a lot more challenging for you. But that's not to say that Nibbāna is impossible wherever you find yourselves. Because Nibbāna is not something you have to do tomorrow. It's not something you have to do when you get home. It's not something you have to do at the workplace. Nibbāna is merely to be attuned with the truth, nature. It's an acknowledgement of what you really are. That's what Nibbāna is. You are just Vipāka. The only time your mind does karma is when your mind is not willing to accept that you are Vipāka. So the Vipāka throws one thing at you, you're like, no, I don't want that, I want something else. And that's when you fight back. That's why acceptance is key. Acknowledgement is key. Being at peace with yourself is key. I appreciate this is pretty philosophical, and maybe part of it is going over your head, the other part is going above that as well. So, there's probably nothing practical you can do out of today's talk. But, for those who resonate with this message, I think it will give you something to think about. And it might actually change your worldview. The way in which you understand and perceive your purpose of existence. I really want yourselves to elevate yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. I don't want you to be mediocre. I don't want any of you to just die a mother. Don't die just as a mother. Don't just die as a father. That was not your purpose of coming into this world. Don't just die a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer or a whatever. Those are things you just have to do because you're alive. But that does not have to be your purpose of life. Your purpose of life is something far greater than that. Do you understand what I'm saying? I know from time to time in different scenarios, in different situations, you will identify yourself as a mother. When you're with your children, you will identify yourself as their mother. When you're with your husband, with your wife, you will identify yourself as a spouse. When you're at your workplace, you will identify yourself as a colleague or a boss, whatever. When you're at the tax office, you will identify yourself as the tax officer or the person who's due to pay the tax. When it's election day, you will identify yourself as a citizen. That's all good and well. I have nothing against that, but what I need you to understand is that's just you in different environments. That's just the various stages onto which you have to get yourselves on. Do you think I'm a monk? Do you think I'm a monk? That's just the role that I have to play right now when I'm on the stage. I'm not a preacher. You think I glorify myself as a preacher? Do you think I want to become the best preacher in the whole world? So I can be known as the world's best preacher? No. Oh, please. If that thought ever crosses my mind, I should be very careful when I walk around, lest you see my tail. Because I'd be a donkey. I am no one. I'm not a monk. I'm not a preacher. I'm not a teacher. Neither am I a student. I'm not a mother or a father. I can act like one. I just have to follow a script. Some of you have given your children to our custody. We look after them. When your child is with me, I can be their father, I can be his mother. I can be both. Because that just needs following a script. Because as long as the child feels that the child feels fatherly love, I just need to follow that script, that's all. Because Father is not born within me, it's born within him or her. If that's what your child feels comfortable with, then I just need to do a set of things. It's like what you do. That's why when you're with your husband or your wife, you feel that you're with your husband or your wife. Because he or she will do things that others will not do. It's their behaviors that help you to formulate that concept in your own mind, right? So you don't have to be any of those. That's what I mean. I don't want any of you to die as a mother or a father or any of those things. Die as a nobody. Don't limit yourself to anything, ladies and gentlemen. Because that's in vain. Really, it really is. It's in vain. It's such a shame if you have to die like that. Don't limit yourself, because you are limitless. Quite literally, you are limitless. You have infinite potential. You have the capacity to be more if only you think more. You think and you be, that's it. Open yourself up. Raga, Desha and Moha are the limiting factors. It has always been and it will always be. The amount to which you are bound by Raga, Desha and Moha, that is the limit that you set for yourself. You can't go beyond that. That defines your comfort zone. Your Raga, Desha and Moha defines your comfort zone. If you have a habit of watching TV every night from 8 to 9 and you can't break that habit, that's your comfort zone, because Raga, Desha and Moha will be there with you at that time. If you can't break the habit of watching that teledrama that goes on Saturday nights, whatever, if you can't break the habit of ordering a pizza because that is what you like, whatever, if you can't break that habit, if you can't break the habit of cracking open a bottle when you have friends around, if whatever you do, if you're doing it for your own personal satisfaction, that is your comfort zone. And that comfort zone, the boundary of that comfort zone is defined by Raga, Dvesha and Moha. Once again, what that has done is, it has limited you to someone who seeks enjoyment out of liquid that flows out of a bottle. What a pity. A human being to find happiness in a bottle? I mean, come on. You mustn't come and ask me, Swaminathan, is it a sin to take alcohol? To drink? Is it a sin, Swaminathan? My answer to you is, why are you even talking about it? It's not whether it's a sin or not. It's an insult. That's what it is. Forget the sin. I don't care about the sin. It's an insult to your intelligence. If you think that happiness comes in a bottle, if it comes in a beer can, if you think that happiness comes in a barbecue, If you think that happiness comes at the end of a skewer, or if it comes in whatever, that's an insult, it's not a sin. Why do you belittle yourself so much? I'm not suggesting that you should stop all that from here on. But here's what I'm suggesting though. If you've been doing those things for your own personal satisfaction, and that alone, it's not to fulfill duties, responsibilities, right? It's not for that. It's not because your neighbors have come around and they're not interested in Nibbāna, you have to give them a barbecue. That I'm okay with. I don't have a problem with that. But let's be honest. Who are we fooling here? That's not usually how it works. You look for happiness in a steak. If you're looking for happiness in a chicken leg, the chicken was happier than you then, right? Don't you think so? If your happiness comes in a chicken leg, huh? The chicken was happier than you. And it's dead now and it's still happy than you. Because there's happiness in the chicken leg then. It's in the drumstick. Don't insult yourself. That's why, I don't get things that people do in the sensual world. And I get it. I'm not saying that I don't. I get it because, I didn't fall from the sky. Right? So I get it. But here's what I get. It's just ignorant foolishness. That's what it is. So I hope I'm not pricking you where it hurts. But this is the truth. Anything and everything through which you seek personal satisfaction, ladies and gentlemen, is not a party. That's a funeral. So don't fool yourselves by thinking that you're going to have a party this weekend. You're going to invite your friends around. You're going to bring some wine. You're going to bring some juice. You're going to have some food. You're going to throw the music, right? You're going to have festivities and confetti and balloons and all that. That's not a party. That's a funeral. It's where your intelligence died. It's where common sense was defeated by social sense. It's where wisdom failed. Ignorance won. I used to have barbecues. I used to have barbecues at home. I used to do parties and all that. Today I realize what a waste of time that was. And I want you to come where I have come today. That's why this is an invitation. This is not me mocking you. This is not a mockery. This is me making an invitation to you. Either in white or in red, it doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is that you have the potential, you have the wisdom, you have the intelligence to do something worthwhile with your lives. Your parents work their socks off, ladies and gentlemen, to bring you up to into this world and to teach you and bring you up as good, well-mannered human beings as you are today. They work their socks off. Your teachers did their part. Your friends did their part. Your siblings did their part. They all did their part because they wanted something more for you, something better for you. So I think it's time. I think it's only fair that you don't settle for mediocrity. Why settle for mediocre when you can be extraordinary? All it takes is to change your perspective. So whenever you think that it's time to get that cake out of the fridge and dig yourself into it, stop for a moment, just one moment. It's not a sin, it's an insult. Because if you're doing it for personal satisfaction, then the cake is happier than you, and the cake was never even born, it's dead. If there's so much happiness in the cake, and you don't have it, then would you not rather be born a cake in your next life? Seriously. If you go watching butterflies, and that's your thing, those butterflies are happier than you because they have happiness that you don't. If you go to the zoo, if you go to the zoo for your happiness, for your personal satisfaction, go to the zoo to study the animals. Yes, that's okay. Study a bit of zoology and how animals work and all that. That's fine. That's for your thesis. But if you're going to the zoo for personal satisfaction, you belong there. Don't come back home. Because now you're on par with intelligence. I want you here. Come on. I want you here, not there. You have to live with mediocre people, I get that, but you don't need to be mediocre. I want you here. Like I said, either in white or in red, it matters not to me. I want you here. I want you here. Your this has to be here. That's what I want. So that you will have no regrets in life. So that you will be content in life. So that you will stop looking for satisfaction, desires, to fulfill your happiness from outside endeavors and pursuits. Because then people will make you the laughing stock. They will exploit you. They will make use of you. They will fool you. They will trick you. They will confuse you. Don't be their slaves when you can be your own master. All you have to do is free yourselves from raga, dvesha and moha, that's it. Those are the three culprits. So your fight is not with your enemy from your school days. That kid, the nasty one, who was always on your back, he's not the one who made life difficult for you. He's not the one who made your life a living hell. It's not your ex-wife or your ex-husband who makes your life a living hell. Maybe they demand monthly payments from you, but that's not the deal. The fact of the matter is you got into that relationship in the first place. You trusted raga, dvesha and moha. You trusted yourself when you shouldn't have. And now you're paying the price. See, if you don't stop your raga, dvesha and moha, if you don't eradicate your raga, dvesha and moha before long, ladies and gentlemen, all your loved ones, every time they bid farewell to you, every time they say goodbye to you, you're going to cry your eyes out. When the reality is, they're actually no one to you. That's like a little kid crying because her doll is falling apart. Or the dog's eaten the doll and the kid's crying. What do you tell the child? Oh, come on, though, it's just a toy. You tell that to your kid, it's just a toy. Don't cry, I'll get you another one. That's what you say. But now think about it. People who you have now taken into your circle of love and affection and all that stuff. These bonds that you have formed with them, actually they're not bonds you have formed with them, these are bonds you have formed within yourself, because they don't exist on the outside, they only exist on the inside for you. It's kind of like recursive. Those attachments you have only to yourself, it's not to them. But see what you have allowed yourself to do. And so now you always live in fear. I don't want that for you. Yes, your mother gave you birth, she fed you, she looked after you, she brought you up, right? But that doesn't mean that when she dies you have to cry. But if you do, that's because of raga, dvesha, moha, not because she was your mother. That's my point. That's what I'm trying to say. When your mother dies, if you cry, that's not because your mother died. It's because of raga, dvesha and moha. Does any of you have mothers who are never going to die? Either they have already or yet to. Fathers, the same. Children, the same. Husbands and wives, the same. Raga, dvesha and moha, these are your enemies. This is with whom you have to wage war. Anicca, dukkha and anatta is the weapon. Understanding that, comprehending that is what you have to do. So, hope for the day, dream for the day, envision the day when you are free of raga, dvesha and moha. That's what your purpose on this planet is. You were given a fighting chance to free yourself from raga, dvesha, moha. Remember, there are plenty of lives in samsara, ladies and gentlemen, where you were born below that of human. When that ever happened, you were not equipped with the intelligence, with the wisdom, with the mental capacity to free yourself from raga, dvesha and moha. You had to live with it. That's why your pet dog at home, he or she will never be able to free herself from it, from that suffering. But you can. That mother who I said possessed the daughter, I can't preach the dhamma to her. I can't preach the dhamma to her now until she comes back as a human, in human form. I can't preach the dhamma to her. But I can preach the dhamma to her daughter. So this is a clarion call, if you like. I'm beating the drums. Can you hear me? This message has to go through your ears and it has to sink and settle in your hearts. You have to carry this message when you leave this room. Your all matters not how old you are. You're all too old to be taking this casually. All we know is life has an expiry date, but unfortunately, we don't know what that date is. So here's the deal. You're all too old to be taking this casually. Whether you're 25 or you're 65, it matters not, ladies and gentlemen. You're all too old to be taking this casually. So please don't. Not on my behalf, on your behalf. You're all individual islands. Your actions are all yours. You have to be responsible for them. Trust me, I am working towards my salvation like there's no tomorrow. Yes, the Buddha Sasana will prevail for the next 2,500 years, but that's not my life. That's the Buddha Sasana. My life could end today, so I don't gamble with it. This is why I make this urgent appeal to you. With the same earnestness that I have within me, with the same urgency and sense of agency that I have within me, I need you to apply yourselves. I will conclude with this. Once again, I'm not suggesting that you must all come to robes because I know it's not practical. I won't be giving you anything that is not practical to do. But your freedom from suffering is not something that is to do with what you're clad in. It's what you think. It's your frame of mind. However, it makes it all the more easier if you're in the association of noble ones, because that's all they talk about. That's all they encourage you to do. Whereas you know what the drill is at home, you know what the drill is on the street, you know what the drill is at the workplace, you know what the drill is when you're among your friends. This is not what they talk about. And who are we to blame them? They just don't understand because they never heard. But you're constantly being influenced. Your circle of influence is going to be the number one determining factor to where you're going to end up in the future. Your circle of influence. That is why the Buddha established the Sambuddha-sasana, and that is why wherever he went, whoever he met, wherever they had the merits, he invited them to come to the sasana, just as Guru Hamdul is doing today. It's not a fad. It's not a cult. It's not a trend. It's not just a fancy thing to do. This is not a fancy dress. This is a dress that gives purpose to this life. So those who can, for your own sake, otherwise you will be here forever. Teachers will come and go. Human lives will come and go. Buddhas will come and go, but you will forever be there, looking after your children, looking after your spouses, looking after your houses, looking after your cars, looking after your maids, doing your jobs, earning money, spending money, growing old and dying. That's the drill. This is an endless loop. Trust me, it's an endless loop. You have been on it so many times, that's why it just feels so natural for you to do that. It's second nature. Because you have been through it so many times. What you have done far fewer times is actually come forth. That's why that seems so unnatural. Doesn't feel like the right thing to do. But what you're doing now, it feels like the right thing to do. Going out with friends seems like the right thing to do. That's what Fridays are for. Monday to Friday is for? To work. Saturday, Sundays are for? The party. Seems so natural. Weekends and weekdays. Did you know you have no weekends and weekdays in your lives? It's just a frame that someone came and threw at you. And now you think, oh, in life we have weekdays and weekends. 5 days of work, 2 days of pleasure. That's what we're supposed to do. Says who? You think they give you quotas? Huh? A part of it to study, the part to earn a living, the other part to build a house, be with friends, and another part to practice Nibbāna. You think you come with that kind of quota? It's your mind that segments your merits in this way. That's how it is. It's like how you budget your money. In the same way, you think you can budget your merit. Little do you know that you are spending merits in exchange for a Rolex. You're spending merits in exchange for a trip to Hawaii. So please, on your behalf, ladies and gentlemen, I can just come and talk the Dhamma to you if you want, but it won't make a change in your lives. You will become learned. You're all very learned. You all learned lots of things. We went to Dhamma school as well, remember? You must have done all the Dharmacharya. You learned the Dhamma. What change did it do to your lives? You can buy the book of the Tripitaka book set and read it page to page. You will become erudite. Nice words, aren't they? You'll become very learned. But what's the point? Everything you learn, you forget the moment you get into that coffin. What's the point? Knowledge is overrated. I'm not suggesting that we don't need knowledge. We need knowledge to make our lives comfortable and convenient. But remember, knowledge and wisdom are on two sides of a scale. The more wisdom there is, the less people are knowledge-oriented. But the less wisdom there is, the more people are knowledge-oriented. And that is true. It's true because, what's the time? It's true because where there is less wisdom, the mind always looks for entities, right? So the mind will keep on forging entities in the mind. When there's only one thing, you need to know its length, width, breadth, size, weight. But when the mind creates another thing, now that's another thing about which you can learn. And it creates another thing, it's another thing about which you can learn. So the less wisdom there is, the more separation there is, the more things there are, the more entities there are, so the more there is to learn about all these numerous things. So, the less wisdom, the more knowledge there is. The more wisdom, the less knowledge-oriented people are, because people realize that everything is the same. So, once I've studied this, why should I also study this? Or this? Because they're both the same thing. But only through wisdom can you see that, can you appreciate that this and this are both the same. If you only watch that part in the video, someone's going to make a funny comment. This monk has lost his marbles. Because he holds a leaf in one hand and a pen in another hand, and he says that they're both the same. So unless you had listened to the sermon right from the start or the previous sermons, this would make no sense at all. Meaning, if you didn't have wisdom, this would not make sense to you. If you did not have wisdom, then these two are very separate entities. So you have to study this, we call it leafology, and you have to study this, we call it penology. But once you realize, through wisdom, that they're all the same thing, now you have done the study of lifeology. All is the same. Then you need not all these ologies. That's why every year they keep on introducing new disciplines to university syllabi. Every year there are new subjects. Every year there are new fields of expertise, new disciplines. And when it's not enough natural, then you try artificial. So we have artificial intelligence. There's no end to this, ladies and gentlemen. You can keep studying for the next 5,000 years, and the following year they'll come up with something new. Something new for you to study, something new for you to learn about. Trace your steps back to its origin. Everything was one. Now, everything is many. Right, let's leave it for the day. So no practical, no, you can drive home looking at the Samarasekaras and Veerasekaras and Vikram Singhas, right? And ask yourself the question, who are they fighting for? You'll see they're all individual battles for diplomacy, for supremacy, for independence, for self-preservation. That's what it's all for. A house built for 3 people has 6 rooms, 4 bathrooms, a separate swimming pool, and a gymnasium, and a tennis court. Next door, they have the same. Why can't both families get into the same swimming pool? No, can't do that. Why? Me, myself, and I. They're the only 3 people who are allowed to be together. Everyone else is a contract. Enough for today. Let's all take a moment then to transfer the merits that we have all acquired. By making offerings to the infinite virtues of the Noble Triple Gem, by listening to the Dhamma, inviting the Swami Master to deliver the sermon, as well as creating a conducive environment for all to come along and practice the path and achieve their liberation. Let us all take a moment to transfer this message to the bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, upasakas and upasikas who have since time immemorial protected and preserved the sublime teachings of the Buddha and passed it down through the generations of the noble lineage in the form of the Tripitaka, which is thankfully available to us today to study, understand and comprehend the Dhamma. Let us take a moment to transfer this message to the monks and nuns resident in your local temples and nunneries, as well as the Mahanayakas, the Anunayakas, Theras of all the chapters, who always been by your side through thick and thin, come rain or shine. Let us also take a moment to transfer this message to my teacher, Guru Swami Wahanse, as well as all the monks resident at the monastery and the Anagarikas and Anagarikas attached to the monastery. Let us also take a moment to transfer this message to those who make great efforts to disseminate the teachings of the Buddha, be that by translating today's talks, sharing them out with others, or inviting others to join them. May they all rejoice in these merits. Let us also take a moment to transfer this message to friends of our monastery, our devotees, who for the sake of their merits to help them attain Nibbāna, continue to sustain the Mahasangha. This includes all of you who provide the Mahasangha with shelter, alms, robes and medicines, as well as those who pass on their know-how and continue to extend their well wishes. May they all rejoice in these merits, and by the power of these merits, may they be healed of any physical and mental ailments, and overcome any obstacles to their spiritual progress. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer these merits to our mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, nephews and nieces, our friends, our acquaintances, our employers and our employees, our teachers, as well as anyone and everyone who've helped us, supported us and assisted us in any way, shape or form. Let us transfer all the merits we have acquired to all of them, and by the power of these merits, may they also be healed of any physical and mental ailments and overcome any obstacles to their spiritual progress. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer this message to the Devas and Brahmas, spirits and demons, primarily the Sakadeva, as well as all the Nimbas, gods and deities who have committed themselves to fulfill and preserve the Sambuddhasasana. Let us transfer this message to our guardian deities who keep a watchful eye over us and keep us out of harm's way. May they prosper in divine power and wisdom. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer this message to our loved ones, our forefathers, our ancestors, those who passed away in our name, reminding ourselves that it is in their blood, sweat and tears today we are able to enjoy the comforts of life as we do. Let us also transfer this message to members of the armed forces as well as the police force who sacrificed their lives to protect the peace and harmony of our nation, as well as those who lost their lives in the wars, be their friend or foe. Let us transfer this message to those who lost their lives in natural disasters and calamities such as tsunamis and earthquakes, landslides, fires, floods, pandemics, and so on, reminding ourselves that in this infinitely long journey of samsara, there will all have been mothers and fathers to us, friends to us, acquaintances to us, and with an abundance of loving kindness and compassion towards all of them, let us transfer all the merits we have acquired to all. May by the power of these merits, if any of them have been born in woeful planes, they redeem themselves to be born in the blissful plane. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, may by the power and blessings of all the merits we have acquired throughout the day, we be able to witness the advent of many hundreds of thousands of arahants on this blessed land. And finally, may you and I and everyone who's helped make this program a success become a Rahatan Wahanse or an Arahat Therunin Wahanse in this very life itself and in the era of this Sambuddhasasana itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May the blessings of the Noble Triple Gem be with you all. The members of the Mahasangha will now transfer their blessings to you. Raga kinnen mitatva dvesha kinnen mitatva moha kinnen mitatva Nibbāna parama sukhayan sukhita taravatva Nibbāna parama sukhayan sukhita taravatva Mamada siyalu loka siyalu satvayo Nibbāna parama sukhayan sukhita taravatva Nibbāna parama sukhayan sukhita taravatva Nibbāna parama sukhayan sukhita taravatva Raga gini niveva Desha gini niveva Moha gini niveva Nivan sapa labheva Nivan sapa labheva Nivan sapa labheva Tunduange suvisi ananta mahaguna belen Silu loka silu satyoma Nibbāna parama sukhayan sukhita taravatva Sadhu sadhu sadhu